Hey friends, welcome to Sabbath School Daily, where we have been studying from this lesson right here, God's Mission, My Mission. This week we're studying from lesson number 2, which has the title, God's Mission to Us, Part 2, and today is Sunday's lesson, which has the title, The Triune God, the Origin of the Mission. When we study the Bible, especially God's missionary efforts towards us, we see that Jesus Christ is at the forefront. He's at the very center of these missionary efforts. Now, the reason for that is because God made himself understandable to us. I don't know if you remember an illustration that I used last quarter, but it was about how Martin Luther described God and masks. Basically, he said that human beings put on masks to hide themselves, but God, on the contrary, put on a mask to reveal himself to us. And that mask was Jesus Christ. We understand God the best through who Jesus was, through his words, his parables, his stories, the way that he treated people, and ultimately his death on the cross and his resurrection. We understand God the best through the revelation given by Jesus Christ. But you'll see that Jesus Christ, while he was here, he didn't point towards himself. His whole story, his whole testimony, everything that he talked about referred to how his Father had sent him. You'll see so many verses in the Bible that have Jesus revealing that very thing. For example, John chapter 4, verse 34 that says, Jesus said to them, "My food is to do the will of him who sent me and to finish his work." Another example is in John 5, verse 30 that says this, "I can of myself do nothing. As I hear, I judge, and my judgment is righteous because I do not seek my own will, but the will of the Father who sent me." And so someone could ask, what does Jesus mean when he says, "I can of myself do nothing"? Please remember that during his incarnation, Jesus was here for two things. He was here to be our substitute and here to be our example, in that order. Jesus first is our substitute, and then he is our example. But what that means is that as our example, he is showing us the way to live. And so his dependence on the Father is an example of how we should be dependent on God as well. That's where he says here that I of myself can do nothing. It's not that he is not God or that he is not omnipotent or that he cannot do anything, but that he is here as our example. In another place, he tells his disciples that the things that they see him doing, they will do even more of. Why? Because they are acting through the power of the Father. And so that was the nature of his dependence on his Father while he was here. Another verse that reveals this is in John chapter 12, verse 45, that says, "And he who sees me sees him who sent me." So you see that Jesus Christ was constantly exalting the role of God the Father in this missionary mission. Sometimes we tend to think that Jesus is almost pleading with God to save us, to love us. And God the Father, he's only going along with it because he loves Jesus. And he says, well, all right, you love them, I'll help you out. But it seems to me almost begrudgingly in the minds of some. Friends, God the Father loves us. The Holy Spirit loves us. This is love coming from God as a whole. The Father, the Son, the Spirit loves humans. After all, what does John 3:16, the most famous verse in the Bible, what does it say? "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son." What does that imply to you? God so loved the world that he gave his only Son. Let's substitute a few things. For God so loved the world that he gave Jesus. You can't read that as, for Jesus so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Jesus to... Do you see what I'm saying? God the Father loves us. The text itself tells us that. He gave his Son. And you could argue that that is considerably more difficult to do than you giving yourself. And so, friends, the truth is that God the Father loves us. Christ, the Son, loves us. The Holy Spirit loves us. That is recurrent in the Bible through and through. As the lesson puts it, the Son created the world, and at the fullness of time, God demonstrated his love by sending his Son here. The Son came, died on the cross, and conquered death. Then, sent from the Father, the Spirit came here, convicts the world, and today continues the mission of the Father and the Son by empowering and by sending God's people out for a mission. So this is a work that is being done by the entire Godhead. The Father, the Son, and the Spirit, they are personally involved in the rescue mission of human beings. The lesson goes on to say that even though the word Trinity is not found in the Bible, mission-focused Trinitarian evidences are numerous. For instance, after his resurrection, Christ appeared to his disciples and promised them, "I am going to send you what my Father has promised, but stay in the city until you have been clothed with power from on high." Here we find the reality of the Godhead's mission in one sentence. The Father's promise, the Son's assurance of the fulfillment of the promise, and the promise itself, the coming of the Holy Spirit. We learn from this that the mission is not ours. It belongs to the Triune God. As such, it will not fail. Again, as I said yesterday, this is God's mission. The Great Commission, where he sends us out, we see that in Matthew chapter 28, verse 19, that he is sending his disciples out, and that sending, it extends to us 2,000 years later. You are also being sent. The Greek word here for sending is the word ekbalo. God is sending you out. And so participate in this mission with the Triune God. I hope that this lesson encourages you to take part in missionary efforts in your community, in your church, in your neighborhood, wherever you live, at work, at home, at school. Participate with God in his efforts of reaching people, and that will be a blessing to you. Please study your lesson. Look up the Bible verses that are here. There's a lot of them mentioned in today's lesson. Also, write down the answers to questions that will bring back this information to you when you most need it. Also, comment down below. I'd love to interact with you. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to our videos. We release one every day, and I hope to see you again here tomorrow for another Sabbath School Daily.